Hi folks, HR Funk here. With my Palmetto State Armory PA-15 that you can see is outfitted with the device that we have come to know as the pistol stabilizing brace. And like many of you, I have been unamused with the ATF and federal government's on again, off again, yes they're legal, no they're not, you have to shoot them this way, no you can't shoot them that way, attitude toward these devices that we've been putting up with for several years. All of which culminated earlier this year with the ATF's final rule on pistol stabilizing braces, where they came out and essentially said, you know what, gosh darn it, those things were illegal all along, our mistake, we should have told you that. They're actually short-barreled rifles, even though we've been telling you for years and years and years they are pistols with stabilizing braces, and they used to be legal, but now if you want to keep them, you're either going to have to register them as short-barreled rifles or do one of several other things that nobody particularly wanted to do with their little firearms. And unlike many of you, I went ahead and registered this firearm as an SBR. It took about 4 months to do so, where I've been waiting very impatiently for that to come through. And several days ago, it did finally get approved, and I got an email of that approval. And some of you might be saying, well, HR Funk, why did you do that? The reason is because I wanted to be able to still use this firearm in videos just like this one, and I did not want to have to worry about a busload of federal agents showing up at my door tomorrow or the next day after the video goes live with a search warrant because I had an illegal short-barreled rifle in their estimation. So the application was approved. My little firearm, which started life as an AR-15 pistol, now identifies as a short-barreled rifle. Its pronouns are Shorty and SBR. And as we see so many times, and as we grapple to embrace diversity, that's what I'm doing with my little firearm here. I'm trying to come to copes with its new identity, and I'm trying to accept it for who it is. And many times when we see this type of a transition, one of the things that has to take place is a makeover in terms of one's appearance. So while I've been waiting for the application to be approved, not improved, to be approved, I have been trying to decide what I wanted to do to make this rifle comfortable with its identity nowadays. Well, the first thing I'm going to do, since this is now an SBR, is dispense with the stabilizing brace altogether and attach an actual stock to this firearm. Now, when I originally purchased this, I was working for the private security firm up in the Cleveland area. And one of the things I really liked about this firearm was the fact that if I was in a vehicle, it was very easy to get in, get out, keep with me in the vehicle. If I was working inside of one of our locations where we provided security, I could carry this with me very inconspicuously in what appeared to be a large briefcase. I took it in and out all the time. Nobody was aware of what I had with me, but it was right there should I need it. So the handiness of these little firearms is outstanding, and I did not want to do anything that was going to affect that handiness. So I'm not going to do anything radically to it to change its dimensions. In fact, one of the things that I can't do is anything to alter the length of this firearm, but I can put an actual stock on here to make it a little bit more accurately shootable. And I can also do some other things to update it a little bit and try to make it a little bit more in line with its new identity as well as the mission that I'm using it for these days. So here we go. So here's one last look at my AR pistol as I've known it for its whole life. In just a moment, you'll get a chance to see its new look, or it will be just a moment for you. I've actually got to do the work. And then you'll be able to see how it's going to appear from now on. And here's my newly christened SBR, complete with its new look. As you can see, I replaced the pistol stabilizing brace with an actual buttstock. I replaced the pistol grip, and I replaced the handguard. And all of these replacement parts were manufactured by Fab Defense, and they're all available from the Optics Planet website. In fact, when I was trying to decide what I wanted to do with this little firearm, I went to the OP website and started to look around to see what I might want to use, and I found all these items there. Thanks to Optics Planet for supplying these parts for this video. And again, if you go to Optics Planet, be sure to use my discount code, which is, and that'll save you 7% on your purchase from Optics Planet. What I'm going to do in just a minute is start to talk about each one of these replacement parts. I'll tell you why I selected that particular part and why I think it's an improvement over the part that was there before. And also I'll tell you a story about one of these parts that took more than a little bit of effort to install. So here we go. So let's kick things off with the item that started all of this, that being the buttstock. And one of the things I did before I ever ordered a single thing for this project was to check the ATF website and make certain that once this firearm was registered as an SBR that I could put an actual buttstock on it. Also, if you're considering something like this for your own newly christened SBR, make sure you check your local laws and make sure you're not going to have any issues by altering the firearm or having an actual buttstock on a firearm this size. There were a couple of things that I liked about this buttstock. First off, it is rather minimalist in terms of its dimensions, and as I said earlier in the video, I wanted to maintain that very handy quality of this firearm, so I didn't want a large buttstock with a big cheek piece or anything like that. I wanted a fairly compact buttstock, which is what I have here. And also we see the contour at the rear here, particularly at the top and bottom, is somewhat rounded. And I'll demonstrate in a little while why I like this, but the short version is when I index this on my shoulder and actually bring the rifle up to fire, this helps to locate it properly. There's also a slight depression right here to help it mold to your shoulder. And this is textured rubber on the rear of the buttstock, again, to help hold that tight to your shoulder and make sure it's not slipping around while you're shooting. This is compatible with the receiver extension tube, if I can get the button there, on this firearm. So I'm able to take advantage of all 6 positions, even though that didn't look like it there. It moves very easily, and once it's locked in place, something I like is this is pretty well protected, so if I rest this on a bag or something else while I'm shooting, I don't have to worry about inadvertently depressing this button and potentially having the buttstock move while I'm shooting, which has happened to me with other types of buttstocks and other ARs. There is a QD swivel attachment on both sides of the buttstock that you see here. And the last thing that I really like is the fact that it stores a 10-shot auxiliary magazine in the buttstock itself. That locks into place and you can carry it and store it right there. Now this will accept any standard AR magazine. Let me grab another one quick. And here you can see I grabbed a hex mag that I had laying close by. And it will install in there even though this is a 30-round magazine. But obviously by installing a magazine like this or even a 20-round magazine, I'm affecting the handling characteristics of the carbine. I'm also affecting its balance and just making it a little more ungainly in general. Whereas with that 10-round magazine, it fits in there very well. It doesn't really change the dimensions very much of the buttstock itself. And I really look at this more as an emergency measure. This is something where if for whatever reason you exhaust the ammunition supply that you have, you've got this as an emergency backup insurance policy to be able to get you out of that situation, hopefully with those remaining 10 rounds. So again, I like that. I think it's a nice feature. I like the buttstock overall. It was an easy install. There are inserts to these buttstocks that can be interchanged. You can't see them. I'll move the camera so you can see the inserts. There you can see the insert. And these are interchangeable to fit both GI and commercial receiver extension tubes. So that way you get a good fit and the buttstock is not rattling around. In order to replace the insert, you simply push on this tab and remove the insert that's in there and install the one that's properly sized for your receiver extension tube. So very simple, very easy, well thought out part from Fab Defense, and in general I like it quite a bit. Next up is the pistol grip, and as I said earlier in the video, this is also a Fab Defense product, and you can tell just by the appearance of this pistol grip when we look at its dimensions, its configuration, its contours, and its material that it is considerably different than a GI pistol grip. It's also quite a bit different than the Magpul grip that it replaced. Both do have the extended portion at the rear to offer your hand some protection between it and the lower receiver, and both have a storage compartment in the bottom, and that's about where the similarities between these two end. The Magpul grip is a very rigid plastic that doesn't really do anything to enhance your grip, whereas the Fab Defense grip is manufactured from a softer rubber compound that just feels very good. It has stippling in the back and some large checker-shaped forms in the front, to further enhance that grip, and it feels good. I'm looking very much forward to going out to the range and shooting with this pistol grip installed to see what I think of it there. I think I'm very much going to like it. Installation of this pistol grip was very straightforward. It was just what you would expect. Simply unscrew the screw that holds the old pistol grip in place and remove it. Obviously, make sure you don't lose the spring that powers the detent for your takedown pin. Position the new pistol grip properly. Make sure you locate that spring where it needs to go. Put that screw back in and tighten it down, and you have now installed the new pistol grip. Very simple, very easy, and a very nice upgrade. Like I said, I think I'm really going to like this when I get it out to the range. Lastly, we come to the handguards. And for the handguards, I'm first going to tell you about their features, then I'll tell you about the installation, which was, shall we say, interesting. These, by the way, are the Fab Defense Vanguard handguards, and I'll make this a little bit bigger so you can see the name right here. These handguards feature dual heat shields, so there's a heat shield underneath both the top and bottom half to help protect your hand when the barrel starts to heat up. It has M-LOK attachment points at 2, 3, 6, 9, and 10 o'clock, so you can install accessories pretty much anywhere you want them around the outside of the handguard. It has a QD attachment point at 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock that we see here at the rear, and it also has this texturing at various places around the circumference, and this is not extremely aggressive texturing, but it certainly helps give a little bit better hold than the smooth plastic Magpul unit that it replaced. This also fits extremely tight, which I'll get into here momentarily, so it makes a great platform for lights, lasers, particularly lasers, if you want to make sure you're not going to have any movement in those items and they're going to maintain a zero and everything else. You get virtually no movement of this handguard whatsoever. So that's the positive part of its fit. Now let me talk about what it takes to actually install this thing. The first thing I'll tell you about the installation of this particular Vanguard is this unit, and I'll hold the box up so you can see it, is intended to fit carbine length AR-15/M4 firearms with an A2 front sight. As you can see, I have an A2 front sight housing on this firearm, and this has a carbine length gas system. So even though the barrel is only 10.5 inches, the distance between the handguard retainer and the front sight housing is exactly the same on this firearm as it would be on a standard military issue M4. So when I got this handguard, I did not expect any difficulty whatsoever in the installation, and I was wrong. The first thing that I discovered is that you have to install the bottom half of this handguard first. Now that in and of itself is no problem, but there were no instructions and nothing to indicate ahead of time that it would not fit a standard GI style front sight housing with the front sling swivel in place. And I discovered that when I very first started to put this together, that I had to remove the front sling swivel. Now that's no real big problem in and of itself. It's very quick and easy to drive out the rivet that holds that front sling swivel and remove the swivel. But when I started to put it on after that, I still couldn't get it to fit quite right. And this was the beginning of 2 days worth of a fight to get this handguard installed. Now what I should probably tell you at this point is the order in which I'm going to discuss these fitting issues is not the order in which I discovered them. I discovered them randomly over the course of the 2 days that it took me to get this handguard installed. What you're looking at right now is the bottom of that bracket that holds the rivet for the front sling swivel, and the swivel pin would normally go right between those two, and as I said, I had to remove the swivel itself, but the handguard still was coming in contact with this bracket, and it would not allow the front end of the handguard to move into the proper position that it needs to lock into the front retaining plate for the handguard. So when I discovered this, my only recourse was to relieve this area, and by the way, I had to resort to a Dremel for this, and for me to resort to a Dremel for any kind of fitting issue is almost unheard of. Normally, I can figure out some way as an armorer to get things to work, and this just absolutely would not clear that. I had to relieve that area in order to be able to get the handguard, maybe I should say the front of the handguard, in the proper position to lock into the retainer. So I did relieve this. I got it to the point where that would fit, and it's somewhat unsightly, but at least I was able to get it there. It's on the bottom of the handguard, so most people are never going to see it. Next is the issue that actually took the greatest amount of time to overcome, and that involves this portion of the handguard right here, which you can see finally, in desperation, I used my Dremel to relieve. This contour actually came much closer at the top than it does now. And the problem I was running into on both sides is this was coming in contact with a tooth on both sides of the barrel nut, and I could not get it past that. I tried prying this open, and this is very, very rigid plastic, as I mentioned before. And there was no way to pry it. I tried relieving just the underside of it, which didn't work. And finally, I ended up relieving this area, and it was still almost too long to be able to reach this portion and retain under the handgun retainer. So when I finally relieved this area and was able to just barely get past the teeth on either side of the barrel nut, I was able to get this almost into place, but it wouldn't come up underneath the firearm retainer, or excuse me, the handguard retainer in the back. And I actually called Fab Defense and discussed this with them, and that phone call didn't go so well, because at first the gentleman that I spoke to said that this handguard was not intended for an AR-15 of this sort, that I was using it on a firearm that was essentially too short for the handguard. I explained that this is a standard M4/carbine length gas system, and the next thing he told me was it doesn't work with a firearm that has a gas block. I told him that it does not have a gas block. I sent photos back and forth, and ultimately, really, I was not able to get much in the way of assistance from Fab Defense. But as I said, I had this most of the way in place. It was up to where it was just about going underneath. And finally, in true Marine fashion, I smacked this 3 times really hard with the palm of my hand and drove it up into place. And that got it underneath the retainer and finally into position. The top half of the handguard, conversely, installed very easily. It went into its proper position in the front, it slipped under the retainer in the back, and there were no problems with that whatsoever. So this was a lot of work. I told the gentleman from Fab Defense, I think most customers are probably not going to do that much work to try to get one of these things to fit. He assured me that they have sold thousands and thousands of these units and people have no problem installing them. So I am just explaining my particular issue. Maybe other people have not had this. Maybe it has something to do with my PSA AR here. I don't think so, because these are all GI spec parts, if not actual GI parts. So all I can say is the experience I had, and this was very, very difficult to install. Now that it's on, I'm happy with it. I think it's going to work very well. I'm again looking forward to getting out to the range and seeing what I think when I actually shoot this firearm, but this was definitely a lot of work. So folks, my original intention was to go out to the range after I had all these new components installed and record some live fire segments with my AR Shorty, but because of the length of time it took me to install the handguard, I basically have run out of time. I still did want to cover a couple of things that I mentioned earlier in the video though, beginning with the contour of this buttstock that I have now attached to this rifle. As I mentioned, it has the contour down here at the bottom that allows it to very naturally index to a proper firing position. Coupled with this slight extension from the included magazine, it really provides a positive point of contact that you recognize when you bring this firearm to your shoulder. One of the most common mistakes I see new shooters make with a defensive carbine is they want to hold it down here and try to bring it up and then bring their head down to get a sight picture and then squeeze off a shot. Obviously, this is very off balance. It's not conducive to fast or accurate shooting, whereas indexing it properly with the toe of the stock right here at the top of your shoulder very naturally allows you to bring the sight to your eye and address a threat very quickly and very accurately. So I think this stock helps facilitate that, and it's one of the things that I expected when I saw it, and I think it's going to work very well in that regard. The other attribute of this stock I also mentioned earlier in the video, that being the ability to reload quickly and easily in an emergency situation with the magazine that is stowed in the stock itself. In that type of a situation, you can simply dump the extra magazine or the empty magazine, install the auxiliary magazine, and be back in a position ready to fire just that quickly. The one thing I wish, though, with the stock is that there was some contour or texturing or something to help you find that proper release when you come back to release the magazine. Now, obviously, it was not difficult there, and I was able to reload pretty quickly, but I've also been practicing this for a while, and I just wish there was something a little bit more there so I know when I touch that with my thumb, I'm on the release and I can quickly reload if I need to. Now, this is only a 10-round magazine, as I said before, so this is not a stay in a sustained firefight amount of ammunition. This is a get yourself out of trouble amount of ammunition. So if you found yourself in a situation like me where you're having to embrace the new identity of your AR that you've owned for some period of time, which the ATF has now determined is a short-barreled rifle, maybe you can have some fun with it, look for some new components, and try to enhance its functionality over and above what it was back when it's still identified as a pistol. In any case, that's the video for today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions or comments, as always, make sure you forward those to me. Remember, if you purchase anything from Optics Planet, be sure to use my discount code, which is... And if you use that discount code, it's good for 7% off your purchase from Optics Planet. Also, remember the discount code from Hot Munitions. If you go to House of Pain, you can use my discount code there, which is HRFUNK10, and that'll save you 10% off your purchase from House of Pain. Last but not least is the Target sponsor for the channel. Go to Target's online, check out their inventory, and see if they have anything that's going to meet your Target needs. See you next time, folks. And until then, good shooting. Bye-bye.